Hello, everyone. Welcome to our schoolroom. This is where we started doing our devotions. Look at our desks and all our schoolwork. I told the kids they had to clean up their desk before we did this because there's papers and pencils all over the place. So, today we are going to learn about something that I do not like at all.
Neither do I.
I don't like them. But they have an important job.
I'll give you a hint of what it is. It eats your garden.
It eats your gardens. It leaves a shiny trail behind it. It carries its home upon its back. Well, some of them do.
Some of them are searching for the home. And eating. Always.
Actually, snails do. Slugs don't. We're going to talk about snails. Here in Canada, we have a lot of slugs, but we have snails as well. Yeah. Slugs are awful. I despise slugs. They're slimy, ooey gooey, and gross.
And they eat our garden.
But snails have an important job. Here's a picture of a snail. See him?
That's a big snail.
Isn't he cool? This is a slug that you find in your garden. Isn't that disgusting? Yuck. But a snail, he's pretty cute.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's not my favorite, but, you know, he's better than a slug. I had slugs get in my garden this year, and they were eating my lettuce. I was not impressed.
Last year they were eating the tomatoes.
Go put that in the garbage, but it missed. Slade is still struggling with his sinus infection, so he's probably going to blow his nose a lot. But you're just going to have to deal with it for now. So, today we are going to talk about small but important. And this is how it is with snails. They are small but important. So we are going to go to the Bible story of David and Goliath. Does anyone know the story of David and Goliath?
Yeah.
Was David a grown-up man or was he a boy? He was a boy. Like he was small, but he was important. I'm going to read you the story of David and Goliath in a storybook form rather than the verses. It's from the verses in 1 Samuel 17, and it is from verses 1 to 54. So it's a pretty long chapter, but we're going to read through it pretty quick. And I'm pretty sure most of you know this story already. The Philistines gathered their armies and marched into Israel to fight King Saul and his soldiers. On one mountain, the Philistines pitched their tent, and on the opposite mountain, the Israelites pitched their tent. But the battle between the two armies did not begin at once. Instead, the Philistines sent out one of their soldiers, a giant, to challenge Saul's men. He thundered to the children of Israel, "Why should your whole army battle me? I am a Philistine. Choose one of your men to come and fight with me. If I kill him, you will be our servants. If he kills me, we will be your servants." And when the men of Israel saw this huge, great giant covered with armor, and when they heard his loud, bellowing voice, they became afraid. No one wanted to fight him. No one at all. Goliath was almost twice as large as an average man. Even King Saul, who was head and shoulders above the rest, looked small next to this mighty giant. Every morning and every evening, Goliath would come out with his big booming voice, and he would call to the soldiers. And every morning and every evening, the men of Israel trembled when they seen the giant and heard his voice. 40 days passed, and no one would go out to fight him. Meanwhile, David is at home taking care of his father's sheep. 3 of Jesse's sons were in Saul's army, and Jesse wanted to know what was happening and how they were doing. So he called David in from the field and told him, "Take this corn and these 10 loaves of bread to your brothers and give cheese to their captain, and find out how your brothers are getting along, and then come back and tell me." Well, early the next morning, David set out. He was on his way to the children of Israel. When he arrived, The soldiers were standing in line for battle. At once, David ran up to his brothers. As he talked to them, he noticed the soldiers were anxious. Their faces were pale with fear. David wondered, what on earth is going on? What does this mean? And then he saw the great giant Goliath. He heard his thundering shouts. He saw Saul's soldiers turn and run in fear like a bunch of frightened sheep. When David talked with the men, they told him about Goliath. Have you noticed what a giant he is? They said. If any man kills this Goliath, the king is going to give him riches, they told David. What a reward. But even with this reward, no one wanted to go and fight him. How surprised they were when David said, why should this Philistine bother us? I will go kill him. They were shocked. What? This boy? You little squirt? You're gonna go fight Goliath? Wow. His brother, his big older brother, was embarrassed that he said that in front of everybody. He was humiliated. He said to David, why did you come here? Who's taking care of the sheep while you're gone? Are you coming here just to watch? David said, why have I made you so angry? But while he was talking to his brother, someone took the message back to the king that there was a man who wanted to fight Goliath. So Saul sent for David, and David looked at the shepherd and said, you can't fight this Philistine.
Saul.
You're just, what did I say?
David.
Oh, Saul said to David, you cannot fight this Philistine. You are just a boy. And he has lots of experience in fighting. He's trained to fight. And you're just a boy. But David told the king, well, I was watching the sheep. There came a lion and a bear to try to steal my sheep. And I killed both the lion and the bear because God was with me and helped me. And the same God that was with me and helped me kill a lion and a bear will help me kill this giant Goliath. So David said, Saul said, you can't go out in just your shepherd's clothes. You need armor. David's like, I don't have any armor. I am a shepherd. These are the clothes I have. So Saul puts all of his armor on David. You must remember, Saul is head and shoulders taller than the average man in Israel. And David was a young boy still. So this armor was way, way, way too big for David. And there's no way he could fight in it. He was tripping over it. And he said, King, I cannot use this armor. I cannot wear it. I've not proved it. I don't know how to work with this armor. It doesn't fit me right. So he went out with his shepherd's clothes. And what did he take with him?
5 stones.
A sling and his staff. Right. And he went out by the brook. And what did he pick up?
5
smooth stones. And he put them in his shepherd bag. And he took his sling and he went out to meet the giant. Well, Goliath was not impressed when David came toward him without a weapon. He roared with laughter and said, am I a dog that you come out with a stick? And he said to David he was going to tear him into pieces. David did not turn back. Instead, he said, you come at me with a sword and a spear, but I come at you in the name of the Lord of hosts. You have defied the Lord this day, and he will deliver you into my hands. Then the whole earth will know there is a God in Israel. And all the people that are watching will know the Lord does not give victory to a sword and a spear, but the Lord will help win this battle. So the giant started moving slowly with all his bigness, all his big armor, all his heavy things. Slowly he started moving toward David. He was laden down. He wasn't a fast-moving man at all. And David comes and starts running toward the giant. He was not afraid. He was not taking a step and looking around. No, he was running. And as he ran, he put his stone in the sling and he let it fly. And where did that stone hit? Whacked Goliath right in the forehead and knocked him off his feet. The Philistine army that was with Goliath didn't wait to see what else was going to happen. They took off running as fast as they can. They left their tents, they left their belongings and everything, and they raced off, and Saul's army right on their tail. David was a small boy, but David had a big God at his back taking care of him. So, let's learn a little bit about the snails. Snails are small, like David was in this story, but important. Snails are small and they're slow. They will not be winning any races, but they play a big role in recycling. They eat the dead leaves on our forest floors. Without the work of little creatures like snails, the whole forest floor would be covered in many leaves and twigs and those kind of things. And we wouldn't be able to go on a nice hike if there wasn't anything like a snail to help to recycle these things.
Because our feet would be itchy from all the
But
leaves.
some kind of snails eat green plants instead of dead plants, and they cause damage.
Yes.
They can be beneficial, which helps us, or they can be destructive, which is bad for the places they live in.
Yeah.
If you ever find a snail, put it on a piece of glass or a magnifying glass, and then you can look underneath of it and watch how its foot moves as it scooches along. See, it has a big foot, and underneath of that foot is its mouth. Can you imagine your mouth being on the bottom of your foot?
We would have to stand on the table.
Ew. Because as you're walking along, dirt is going in your mouth because that's where your mouth is.
Because you're breathing through your mouth because you're panting.
They feed by, as they're going along, the stuff that, as they're moving, it scrapes up into their mouth, and that is what they eat. Whatever they crawl across and scrapes up into their mouth. The snail's tongue is covered in tiny teeth. Did you know snails had tiny teeth on their tongues?
I have tiny teeth on my tongue.
I didn't know that. That is so cool. When they are frightened, the snail, what does the snail do when it's afraid?
It goes into its shell.
It pulls itself up inside of its shell.
Or shell.
Its shell home where it is feeling safe.
And having a nap.
Did you know you have an important job to do in today's world? Did you know that? You can make a difference in your home and your neighborhood. You, small you. Have you ever helped someone? Have you ever given someone a glass of water? Have you ever played with someone who is by themselves and feeling alone? Well then, that was important. God said it's important, and Jesus promised if you give someone a glass of water, it's as if you give it to me. You are helping, then it's like you're doing it for Jesus himself. It tells us that in our memory verse, Matthew 10:42. It said, Jesus said, whosoever gives one of these little ones a cup of cold water, he shall by no means lose his reward. So you will have a reward if you help out your family, if you help out your community, if you help out your friends, if you help out a stranger, if you help out someone who is poor. You, little you, is important. Little you has a place in this world. Little you has an important job to do, to be helpful to those around about you, to show God's love to the people that are surrounding you. All right, come over here, Slato.
Yeah, I just gotta grab the eraser.
We're going to have a quick prayer, and then we're going to let you go. Jesus, we love you. We thank you for this day. Thank you for the reminder, God, that no matter our size, we can be useful in your kingdom, God, and you have a purpose for each and every one of us. God, I pray that you bless these children today, God. Help them to reach out and to show your love. Remind them that they are who you say that they are. They are a blessed and an important part of your kingdom. God, we worship you today. Watch over each one. In your name we pray. Amen.